Solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula, and this is part 3. So we're on example 5, and this is choose any method. So in this lesson, we've been using the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. We've also used the discriminant to figure out how many solutions it has or how many x-intercepts it has. Now it says to solve using any method. So we have looked at factoring in previous lessons. We've looked at graphing. We've looked at using the square root. And we've used the quadratic formula. So these are things that we have went through, and all of these you can use for different types of quadratic formula or quadratic equations. So there are different methods. So what you want to do is be able to choose the most efficient method, meaning that you can find it the quickest, you know. So if you look at a part, 2x squared minus 32 equals 0, this one doesn't have a linear term. You could quickly add 32, divide by 2, and take the square root of both sides. So when you look down through here, you could say that using square roots is the most effective method for part A. B part, you can multiply 2 times negative 24 and get negative 48. This may factor, probably wouldn't be any quicker than using the quadratic formula. So when it's not short and simple, I would say you know for a fact the quadratic formula can solve all quadratic equations if done correctly. So I probably would lean towards the most effective method or the quickest method to get to the correct answer. For this one would be the quadratic formula. And for this one, you can do factors of 12. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, 2 and 6 give you 8. This one is probably quickly solved by factoring. All right, so square root, quadratic formula, factoring. I want you to pause the video and see if you can remember how to do these different types of problems on your own. We will work through these together, but I think it's important that you can access prior knowledge and remember things that we have learned in previous lessons and still be able to use those. So we've went through all of these things as of now. So see if you can do that on your own before we work them out. All right, so for A part, I did exactly what I said. I solved using the square root. So the first thing I did was add 32 to both sides of the equation. So we have 2x squared equals 32. Then I'm going to divide by 2. I'm trying to get the variable by itself. Divide by 2. 32 divided by 2 is 16. And then to get rid of the squared term, I do a square root. Square root is the inverse of something squared. So I take the square root of both sides, and I get x equals plus or minus 4. Remember, when you do the square root of x squared, you have to do plus or minus. All right, also for B part, I did just exactly what I said again. I plugged it into the quadratic formula. I simplified down here. We got 13 plus 19 divided by 4 and 13 minus 19 divided by 4. So our two solutions came from the plus or minus square root of 361. And the square root of 361 again is 19. But that is your discriminant because that number is positive. We knew we had two real solutions, and again those solutions are 8 and negative 3/2. All right, C part, I looked at this and I said 12 can easily be factored into 6 and 2. So I wrote these into two factors. Factored form is equivalent to standard form. It's just rewritten in factored form. Again, factoring is so important. All right, set each factor equal to 0 using the zero product property. Solve, and this one also has two solutions, x equals negative 2 and x equals 6. That means this quadratic equation would have x-intercepts at negative 2 and 6. This one would have x-intercepts at 8 and negative 3/2. This one would have x-intercepts at positive 4 and negative 4. All right, so again, this is just a summary of the 4 different ways we have learned to solve quadratic equations. And being able to choose an effective method can sometimes save you time and energy. On time tests, that's very important, like the ACT and the EOC, those are timed tests, so it's important that you can find the quickest, most effective method to solve. All right, that's all for this lesson. If you have any questions, let me know.